Welcome to the Wandering Ecologist podcast with me, Penny Green, celebrating positive nature conservation news, one story, one friendship, one wild place at a time. Today I'm joined by a great friend who was once my boss and most importantly a huge inspiration to me at the beginning of my conservation career, which was over 25 years ago. Uh-oh. I'm with the lovely Henri Brocklebank, who is the Director of Conservation at the Sussex Wildlife Trust. Hi Hen, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thanks Pen, thank you for inviting me along.
Oh, this is such good fun. It's nice to be sitting here on the beach, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
So hopefully the listeners can hear that we are surrounded by the soothing sounds of the sea. We're at Shoreham Harbour on the Sussex coast, and we're here to talk about a very special habitat. Henri, can you tell us a bit about this lovely habitat that we're right next to, but we can't see because we haven't got our swimming costumes on?
It was maybe foolish of us not to bring our swimming costumes today because it is glorious weather, but we're here to talk about kelp here in Sussex, which is a habitat that I think lots of people didn't know we had and didn't know that we had lost, and one of those horrendous conservation stories where 96% of our habitat was lost and nobody even noticed.
That's crazy. It is because it's out of sight and out of mind, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like divers might know more about that, but to the most part, most of us, we didn't have a clue what was going on beneath our feet.
The kelp forests in Sussex was here until the 1980s, and so as a kid I lived about 20 miles inland, but after a storm it was actually the 1970s day out to go down and look at the mountains of seaweed on the beaches and climb the seaweed and jump off. That was an actual day out. And I think lots of people over a certain age in Sussex do remember the mass of seaweed on the beaches, and then when you talk about it, they go, there's a kind of the penny drops. It's like, where did it go? What happened? And so it's a really interesting case of what happened to our Sussex kelp. It wasn't entirely highly regarded because of the seaweed on the beaches. I know that Worthing Borough Council wasn't very happy about it because it impacted tourism.
Because it can get quite smelly, can't it, when it kind of gets washed up in a storm and it starts kind of
decomposing, and then it gets drawn back out again. So Worthing Council wasn't particularly happy about it, but as a result of being not very happy about it, they did do us the biggest favour in the 1980s by mapping the problem. And so, which is why we know where the kelp forest was, because they undertook a mapping exercise in the 1980s. So we know exactly where the kelp forest was, where it was most dense, etc. And so we're sitting here in one of the remaining places where kelp has carried on sort of sustaining itself over a really hard period. But here, this is one of the patches here offshore.
Amazing. And so the kind of thought of helping these kelp forests to recover in Sussex, how did that discussion all begin? Well, why did it begin?
I think it's important to start with why we lost it in the first place. Sure. And it's like all things, it's a combination of features. So you'll remember the storm of 1987, which was one of the biggest storms that we'd ever had, and it's normal for kelp and other seaweeds to be ripped off the seabed in a storm, but like all ecosystems, there's a level of resilience. They're designed for that to happen, and it will regenerate. But the 1987 storm opened up big areas because of the seaweeds being ripped up, and trawlers were able to come into those areas, and because of changes in technology and trawling at the time, these areas became more accessible. Trawling is when you pull heavy fishing gear along the seabed. I think it's not unreasonable to compare it to ploughing a field. It's a level of destruction, and to the actual seabed, and especially along our Sussex coast where we have lots of chalk habitat. Chalk's very soft, and so we have chalk reef habitat. That's obviously not going to bear very well to trawling impact, and so that's over a period of time. That's why we went down to such such micro remains, fragments of our previous habitat. But it was free divers, it was one particular free diver who was witnessing this happening, who was endlessly trying to draw it to the attention of people who can make a difference, and eventually one day his letter did arrive at the right place, and with an organisation that was aware of what had happened, and they were in a position to do something about it.
Amazing. And let's talk. Okay, let's talk about the problems that the marine world has faced along the Sussex coast. What kind of things are we looking at that have been? You mentioned trawling, but there are other things going on here, isn't there, that are affecting the marine environment to the detriment of the habitat itself, but also everything that lives in it.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, I think it's really important to note we're in one of the busiest areas for shipping in the world. The English Channel, especially around this area, is really busy, so it is really noisy. So there's that element. There also, our seas are very shallow. I think at the very deepest it's about 60 metres, but most of when you look out from the Sussex coast, it's kind of 30-35 metres is what you're looking at for the deeper areas. It's shallow, and therefore, because it's shallow, it is more prone to the warming from marine heat waves. You've probably heard of marine heat waves. When you look at maps of marine heat waves around the UK, you'll see that Sussex gets an extra dark colour on a heat map, because marine heat waves are a real issue in this area.
Okay.
Additional to that, sedimentation, everything that goes into our rivers ultimately comes into the sea, and that's everything from silts and sediments to nutrients like nitrates and phosphates, and the horrendous forever chemicals that we always hear about, and just such an awful concept of like new problems to the environment. I think what's interesting is that what stimulated all of this work on Sussex was the creation of a piece of fisheries management, a really innovative creation of fisheries management, and we should be really proud that this happened here in Sussex with our Sussex Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority, because for the first time in the UK they created some fisheries management that was based around what we call ecosystem services. So what could a healthy environment provide for us? What's that worth? So they did basically a cost-benefit analysis of what a healthy, naturally functioning ecosystem would do for us, and that was what enabled the exclusion of trawling through this entire length of coastline, and therefore the recovery of the marine ecosystems, which includes kelp.
Amazing. And so what kind of area are we talking about for this?
It's 300 square kilometres. So that's probably the most incredible thing about marine recovery is the scale that is possible. And this is just one area of marine recovery in Sussex, and there are more.
And there's marine conservation zones. There's several of those set up along over the last couple of decades or so, isn't there?
That's right. In 2009 there was the Marine and Coastal Access Act, which started the designation of marine conservation zones. So I think I'm going to say 9. I think we have 9 marine conservation zones in Sussex, but those go all the way out to the median line, which is the median line is where it starts in French waters. And we also have one of the 3 highly protected marine areas. Highly protected marine areas. So we have one called Dolphin Head, which is right out, I think it's about 18 kilometres offshore. And that's 500 square kilometres of protected.
That's a huge area, isn't it?
Absolutely huge. So it's really exciting to see. Management is starting to catch up. There's a consultation happening at the moment following, I'm sure quite a few of your listeners have seen David Attenborough's Ocean film, which is harrowing. It's like beautiful, unforgettably beautiful footage paired up with unforgettably devastating footage.
Sure,
it's very, very impactful film. And it's the government are currently running a consultation about the protection from bottom-towed fishing gear in our offshore, which is beyond 6 nautical miles, to see if we can get them designated, and that would be absolutely amazing. So you have until the 29th of September, which might be after this is Ooh, online.
I could try and get it out quickly.
Yeah, get it out.
So back to the kelp that's just out there, just out of reach for us at the moment. Can you explain what kelp is to the listeners? Is it just one species? How big is it? What does it look like?
So, first of all, the most important thing, the first lesson to learn about kelp is it's not a plant. So it's an algae. So all of this excitement over an algae is just like, who ever knew that would happen? That algae would cause such a big sensation. So kelp, it's a range of species. Lots of people think, because they have watched lots of David Attenborough documentaries, and they go, oh yeah, kelp. They're generally, well, very often thinking of giant kelp, which is what you find in California, South Africa. And when you see, it grows to 30 metres high. My octopus teacher, I think, was filmed in that kind of kelp forest. So people, when we talk about kelp in Sussex, their first instinct is they think it's that. And sorry, listeners, it's if you've got 3 metres, you'd be doing well. Our kelp in the English Channel is very different. It's different species. There's a few different species from the Laminaria family. They tend to grow in temperate waters around the world. I think we've got about 4 or 5 species, Laminaria and Saccharides, here in Sussex. And I've got a piece here, not of kelp, but of seaweed, to just illustrate the point, which is kind of pointless on radio, on a podcast.
Just before we started the podcast, we had a little walk along the sea line, and because it's been very windy the last few days, there's loads of treasure that's been washed up in. It's lucky that we've got a little storyboard here, haven't we, to help us visualise where we're going next with the podcast. So what have you got in your hands here?
So I have a piece of seaweed, but what it reminds us is, at the base of this seaweed there's a kind of flat, hard area, which is the holdfast. And it reminds us that seaweeds need something to attach to, and that they are not plants. They do not have roots. They do not draw their sustenance from the soil or from the substrate of the sea. They kind of absorb it through their fronds, which is what we call the leaf, what we would otherwise call leaves, or stipe, which is what we would otherwise call the stem.
Okay, thank you for that, the technical jargon there. That's good. Good to set off on the right foot, or the right holdfast.
Yes, very good. You're listening.
And so, when you have these healthy kelp forests, they can be incredibly biodiverse, can't they?
Yeah.
Probably one of the most biodiverse habitats in the world, I believe.
Well, it's a claim that many habitats do claim. Chalk grassland, is it however many species? Some people say 40, some people say 80. There seems to be no limit to how many species chalk grassland can sustain. Similarly with kelp, I mean, lots of the research on how many species you get in kelp forests is probably done with giant kelp, so it's a completely different thing. But what we do know is that a healthy kelp habitat provides this incredible compilation of different niches. I always think of it like an oak tree, and I think people are familiar with the fact that oak trees might have bats under the bark, it might have birds making nests, it might have beetles under the bark, there's galls on the leaves. There's so many different things that could happen in an oak tree, and I see kelp as a very similar situation. And also because it creates this lovely kind of microhabitats from its holdfast and its lower stipe.
Well done.
Then what you'll see is it's a really great nursery area for juvenile fish, so that they can be sheltered from predators, etc. It forms ecosystems of more oxidised water, so it really creates it's a proper ecosystem, and it's why it's called an ecosystem engineer, because it creates ecosystems
and attracts more species in that will benefit from it being there.
Exactly. So the predators will be attracted because the prey is there, and the prey is attracted because it's got shelter, it's got food, etc.
Lovely. A really nice description. I like the comparison to an oak tree. So it's lovely. And some of the listeners might be amazed to hear that the kelp forests off of our Sussex coast can house species like seahorses and cuttlefish and all these amazing species that when you see footage of them, they're so exotic looking, and you would just never guess that it's just out here.
So in Bognor, which is 15 miles from here, we have breeding stingrays. These are 2 metres across in Bognor.
That's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible, and I think it's very little known that we have sharks here in Sussex. We have lots of species of sharks. We even have one marine conservation zone which is dedicated to sharks. So
Looking.
Oh, look,
So
here.
so we were looking earlier on and we found some lovely egg cases, didn't we?
Yeah, so this is
there's one as well. So we've got these beautiful one's nearly as big as the palm of your hand, isn't it? It's a beautiful case that's really robust. I mean, it's hard to break into it, and it's and you said this was a shark egg case.
Yep.
And
these I think are rays.
They're slightly smaller, maybe the size of your sort of index finger, the top of your index finger. And one of them's even got little tendrils coming off. Is that to help attach it to
That
something?
will be to attach it to the stipes. And also you can see, I'd just like to reassure your readers that all of these have got a little hole in them, which is where the young fish would have got out. So
amazing.
So these are all empty, they're washed up on our beaches, and we can all go down wandering on the beaches and we can see these signs of these incredible species. They're here for us all to see.
To enjoy. So I was reading that along the Norway coast, more than 100,000 mobile invertebrates were found per square metre on the kelp stipes and holdfasts in well-developed kelp forests. So that just gives you an idea. 100,000 invertebrates per square metre. That's immense, isn't it? That is a hive of activity.
And I think that's why there's been a huge emphasis on help the kelp. And it is really important to help the kelp, because it's actually helped all marine ecosystems, most definitely. But kelp has become the poster child of these marine ecosystems.
You need a flagship, don't you?
You need a flagship.
And it draws people's attention.
And it's an algae.
Yeah, it's an algae. Or a seaweed.
Yeah,
yes.
It's really, isn't it? Everybody thought it had to be dormice, cute and furry, but no.
How has the project you're working with helped change the fortune of the kelp forests here? So Sussex Wildlife Trust is involved with this partnership.
Yeah, it's a range of organisations all came together when before the bylaw, but we formalised once the Sussex Nearshore Trawling Bylaw was in place to support the success of it, basically. We want this is an incredible opportunity for Sussex marine recovery, and we want it to be a success. We want the best possible monitoring, we want the best possible collaboration. This is Sussex, where I think we should be really proud of how organisations work together in Sussex. It's like, we've got one big mission, that's to save nature, let's work together and make it happen. And this is happening in the marine space of bringing together the academics, the NGOs, the statutory bodies, of how can we be the most effective to make sure we monitor the change. This is, as I mentioned, the creation of this bylaw, it'd never been done like that before. It's really important to demonstrate that fisheries management using the medium of ecosystem services is genuinely a positive way to go ahead. We want to demonstrate that here in Sussex. We want to demonstrate it elsewhere as fisheries management using ecosystem services as a tool is really valid.
It is, and I think a lot of people might think, well, we shouldn't have to put a monetary value on our marine life or any other kind of wildlife.
We shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to, but if we do, it helps progress.
Yeah, there is
the conversations that we can have to help.
Exactly that,
recovery.
but there are some elements that I think they just go beyond monetary value, and we were lucky enough very early on in the project to talk to Sir David King, who is I think he's one of the founders of the Climate Repair Centre in Cambridge, and so we had the opportunity to talk to him about what was happening in here in Sussex and get his view on it as a climate specialist. And he said, if there's one thing that we do for the climate, it should be to restore marine ecosystems. And that's just given us fuel in our tank.
Amazing.
To go forward of just how important this is. Also, our climate is changing. The marine heat waves are real. The more resilient our marine species are, the more able they are to move. Species are moving, and we need those healthy habitats so they've got somewhere to move to.
Of course, and also like temperature as well. I mean, we have to think about the temperature and how that affects a lot of species in their movements, because it can really restrict where something can survive, exist and not even kind of proliferate. It's just about existing at that point, isn't it?
One of the exciting things, one of the absolute highlight of the work that's happened on kelp is that there are now so many people demonstrating it is no longer out of sight and out of mind. So there is a really exceptional community of free divers who they've made it their mission to share the Sussex marine journey with as many people as possible. Their posts online reach 25,000 people regularly, because this has all happened at a time where underwater photography is achievable.
It's really
underwater
accessible
GoPros are accessible, and so every time they go diving, and as free divers, they're not diving encumbered with scuba gear. They're literally them in a wetsuit and a camera, and they are taking footage that is just eye-wateringly beautiful. I'm not a diver, I will never be a diver, so I completely rely on them to show me this beautiful place. I dedicate so much of my work to this. I've never seen it. They show it to me, and that's so good. Lovely. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing. I could have. Yeah, I wish I brought my swimming costume down and snorkel. We should have done, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
So you talk about these divers and they're helping to capture footage of these species, and I guess are they helping also with the monitoring? Are you measuring the kelp forest? Are you measuring the species that are utilising the kelp? How are you sort of seeing the change? How are you monitoring the changes that are happening here?
That's a really interesting question. So more than any other projects that I've ever been involved in, there's two types of monitoring going on. There's the scientific, empirical monitoring of this is a methodology and we'll repeat it, exactly that method year on year. So important. And then what the freedivers provide more is anecdotal evidence, because the empirical monitoring will show trends, and you need years of data to start to show patterns that are statistically kind of significant.
Sure.
And we're 4 years in, so
it's going to take
the graphs
a while.
have got 4 dots. You're not showing
very
trends.
important dots, though.
Important dots, but statistically, that's not a trend. 4 dots. But what's happening with the divers? That's instant feedback. One of my favourite kind of narratives that's come from the divers was very early on, that in the first year after the bylaw, they were noticing these blue mussels coming back, and in the first year they were going, it's an area the size of a tennis court covered in blue mussels, and then the next year it's like, it's an area, I've swum the length of it and it was 1 kilometre.
Wow.
And then the next year it's like, it's 17 kilometres. Mussels, again, they're an ephemeral habitat. They will come and go with storm pressure, etc. But we talked about the holdfast on the seaweeds.
Yeah.
They need something solid to attach onto. We've got a seabed that's been degraded by trawling for decades. So actually, this evidence that's coming from the freediving community, like mussels and how they are, it's very hard to monitor because they'll come and they'll go. But the most important thing is that they're there and they're establishing, and that will help provide substrate that more ecosystems can thrive on.
Amazing. And gosh, to see that change in those few years,
incredible.
That's and that anecdotal stuff, that anecdotal information that comes back through people's observations is so important, isn't it? And I think earlier on when you mentioned about the seaweed being washed up on the beaches during the storms and how we just don't see that anymore, that's that whole shifting baseline syndrome, isn't it? What we observe as in generations, and sometimes you don't realise what you're missing or what's gone because it's not there anymore, but you haven't really noticed it's not there anymore.
That is completely characterised by probably the central figure linked to the recovery of Sussex kelp is one of these free divers, Eric Smith.
He's an amazing man, isn't he?
He's fabulous. He's I think 75. I'm going to say 75 just in case I get it wrong. Let's say 75.
Let's go with that.
He's been diving in Sussex waters since he was a teenager. So
he's seen the changes. Yeah.
He's seen the changes. He knew it when it was that incredibly rich habitat. And even that incredibly rich habitat was probably a massively degraded version of what would have been here in Victorian times. Because we know from archival information that there used to be an oyster reef off the Sussex coast that was 70 miles long.
Wow.
Exactly. And you hear reports of the size of the fish 150 years ago that was like, what? It's unrecognisable now. But Eric, because not only can he tell us in his beautiful descriptions what it was like, he actually has underwater footage.
Amazing.
In colour.
So
from
good.
the 1950s of what the marine space looked like here in Sussex.
And he must be delighted that now he can be part of making a change for the better, that having seen it decline and being really sad about it, he can now be part of this amazing movement that's bringing it back.
Oh, he's the kind of the godfather of Sussex marine recovery, I think.
So good.
And has inspiring people every day. Last night he was giving a presentation in Worthing, and one of the other members the night before was talking in Bexhill to 700 people.
Amazing.
The word is absolutely out, and it's always amazing when you talk to an audience of people and you go, hands up if you've heard about Kelp in Sussex, and everyone's putting their hand up now.
So good.
Yeah.
And there has been quite a, I know you guys have been trying really hard to get it in the press, and obviously there's a fantastic short documentary with David Attenborough and Sussex Wildlife Trust, which is fantastic as well. What results have already been seen in the forest here? What's sort of tangible, and what have been the most exciting results so far for you?
I think, for me, I think it's the biggest result actually isn't I know it's changing, and I know it's changing because of the continual feedback that we're getting from the free divers in particular, and anecdotally from commercial and recreational fishers, of the diversity that they're seeing and the changes that they're seeing. So that is the most exciting thing. It's currently still anecdotal, but these changes, like the mussel beds and the increase of black sea bream, these are really important. They're the small changes at the front, but I think the best is still yet to come. And I think it's a really exciting thing to kind of watch this space.
So good. And that's the exciting thing about sort of the years ahead of you, because like you say, 4 years into this project, there's going to be a lot of exciting news that comes your way over the next few years, and hopefully that just keeps the momentum of the whole project going, that lovely positive feedback that you're getting.
Yeah, and ocean literacy is so important that young people grow up loving the sea, understanding the sea, loving the beach, understanding all the things that the sea gives us. And the Sussex Wildlife Trust, we've been running forest schools like every wildlife trust probably does, but going, not many woodlands around Brighton for us to take kids to do forest school. And then there's as my colleagues always describe it, as rather an embarrassing penny drop, where they're like, oh, we should take them to the beach instead.
Yes, great idea.
And so they developed like the equivalent of forest school, but for beaches. And now we spend a lot of time training teachers, because teachers don't tend to use the beach as a learning space, even if the school's like 400 metres away, because it, from a teacher's perspective, it's a health and safety nightmare. Like 30 kids running around a beach, and you've got the sea, and you've got all these dangerous things. And so what we do by doing teacher training is we're teaching teachers how to use it safely and confidently, so then they can bring all their classes down and do wild beach sessions with the kids.
Fantastic.
So, wouldn't it be great if every kid who lived in our huge coastal conurbation in Sussex
Which is a huge
gets
area.
to do that as part of their schooling.
It should be an integral part of what they're learning, because it's right here on our doorstep, and we should all understand it and love it. Yeah. And if we love it, we're going to help protect it.
Exactly. And that's why I think ocean literacy is so important, and what the story of the kelp does, what talking about Eric and like his wonderful work, every single bit of that helps people get the story and understand it and connect to it more, so that we will never ever do this whole out of sight, out of mind. That will be, we want people to see too much of it.
And talking about sort of how people can get involved, I mean, there's loads of places people can find out, listeners can find out information about the Help Our Kelp project.
Yes. So
where can they find that information?
So Help Our Kelp, obviously it's got a website and lots of excellent social media content, fabulous publications to read. There's a really, if you're slightly more hardcore about it all, there's a really good publication that the Blue Marine Foundation led about the barriers to optimum recovery for kelp. Because there are so many different things that impact our marine ecosystem, and where, like sedimentation, like water temperature, like pollution, like nutrients in the water, and understanding how these affect kelp, because actually every single one of us has got a role in one of them.
Yes.
Like, we drive cars, say, and it's actually the runoff from our roads is coming down our rivers, and that is creating forever chemicals in our water. So whether we're a decision maker or just a user of products, we all have a sphere of influence, so we can all do something for the sea, like we're going to do, because we are going to do a 3-minute beach clean.
We are, well,
at the end of this session, and we won't leave without 3 bits of marine litter each, and then we can dispose of them in the proper way, Penny.
Definitely up for that, and what you've got in your hands now is proof that everyone should do this, because you've picked up some old fishing net, haven't you?
I have.
And there's a very sad little story in there.
So fishing net that's been discarded at sea for whatever reason, it gets referred to as ghost gear, and it's called ghost gear because this fishing gear is designed for killing marine life, ultimately catching it, and even when you just get small bits floating around, it's still doing that job. And so here in this strange little bundle of nylon from it looks like it's from a commercial fishing net, there is a little crab, or a couple of little crab legs sticking out. So it's been doing its job, it's still catching wildlife.
Yeah. And unfortunately,
so that's one of our 3 pieces that we're going to be collecting.
I'm definitely up for doing some beach cleaning now, I think. So, Hen, thank you so much for sharing this amazing habitat with me. It's an exciting thing to know it's out there under the waves. And like I said earlier, I really wish I brought my swimming costume because this is the first nice day this week. It's a September sunny day, which is quite a rare thing for this September because it's been very wet and wild. And the sea looks very inviting, doesn't it?
We can do a follow-up with swimming costumes.
Let's go and find ourselves a seahorse. Right, let's get a bag and go and do some beach cleaning.
Let's do it.
Thanks so much, Hen.
Thank you, Pen.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Many thanks go to Henri for sharing her passion for the marine environment and the uplifting news of how sea life off the Sussex coast is recovering thanks to a huge amount of hard work and dedication. More exciting news has been announced by the Sussex Wildlife Trust since our podcast recording. There's been a major success in the judicial review of the decision to allow the dumping of 100,000 tonnes of dredged sediment in Beachy Head West Marine Conservation Zone. Congratulations on this amazing achievement that will not only save the habitat of the short-snouted seahorse and blue mussel beds and the unique intertidal chalk reef, but set a precedent for other potentially damaging activities in other marine protected areas across the UK. Many thanks go to Matt Davidson for the fantastic music and Katie Bolton for the fab artwork. Tune in again soon when I'll be having more wildlife adventures with friends. In the meantime, make sure you get outside with a friend to share some wildlife adventures too.
Thanks to Leica for sponsoring the Wandering Ecologist podcast. I've been a Leica user since the very beginning. Whether I'm monitoring stone curlews or barn owls or conducting a dragonfly survey, I rely on their precision. With over 120 years of crafting premium optics, Leica brings exceptional clarity even in low light. The close focusing range reveals fine details others miss, and the rugged waterproof design means they keep going, whatever the weather. German engineering, trusted in the field, and craftsmanship I can count on.